Needles and Needles podcast. I'm your host, Heather, and this is a podcast where I talk about a couple of my favorite things, knitting and reading. And today is Monday, December 19th, so it's 6 days before Christmas, and it's definitely getting down to the wire now. I apologize for kind of my weird filming location. Everyone is home today, and I could not find a place to get away to podcast, and I really wanted to podcast one more time before Christmas. So if you hear kids screaming and running around in the background, I'm really sorry. I am on the floor in my bedroom in front of my dresser trying to podcast. So I'm gonna try to make this pretty quick because there's just a lot of chaos and activity going on in my place, and I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to do this without being interrupted. I'm in here under the guise of wrapping presents. I need to do that too because there's a couple presents I need to wrap still. So I want to say welcome to everyone tuning in and watching. If this is your first time checking me out, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you've taken the time to sit and watch me. If you like what you see, hit like, hit subscribe. That would be great. I would be really excited if you do that. And I want to say welcome back to all my returning viewers. Thank you so much. I know I have a few loyal watchers, and so thank you guys so much. Your words of encouragement last week especially were great, and really made me feel good. So thank you so much for tuning in and for coming back. As I said, we're getting really close to Christmas time. I have no Christmas decorations around me right now because, like I said, I'm holed up in my room trying to get this out there. And we're getting down to the wire. I'm feeling pretty good about my holiday knitting, and I'll talk about that when I get to the knitting portion. All the presents are bought. They're all wrapped except for the stuff that I have to knit. I do have some candy type stuff that I need to work on, and I just realized I don't have my show notes in front of me, so I better get those so I know exactly what I'm talking about. My voice is back to normal. I'm kind of over that cold, so that's really good, especially with the holidays coming up, and I'm gonna have a little bit more energy for that, so that's really good. So thank you again for tuning in and watching. You can find me on social media, on Instagram and Ravelry. I'm active in both places, and I'm going to put up on the screen my contact information there. So follow me on Instagram. I do post my knitting stuff quite a bit, and sometimes other things of kiddos and puppies and things like that, or one really big puppy. Since I'm podcasting on my floor, his head may come in. I don't know. He's in here with me. We'll see what he decides to do. So you can follow me on Instagram. On Ravelry, I'm active in both places, so if you send me a private message, I will be able to get back to you. I would love to chat with you. Yeah, I didn't even make it 5 minutes without being interrupted, so this could be a painful process. We'll see how it goes. So we do have a Ravelry group where I put show notes, and that'll be links to anything that I talk about with the books that I read, the patterns that I make and whatnot. So definitely check that out. Join. There's an introduction thread, so pop in there and say hello, and that would be awesome. I am excited. There's going to be a knit along that I'm going to be starting in January, and so there'll be a thread for that. That's not up yet. I'm going to wait until it's actually January to get that started. It's going to kind of be both a chatter or finished object, whatever thread. It's just going to be, everything is going to be there. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I'll talk more about that in the knitting portion. So for those of you who've watched for a while, you already know this. Those of you who are new, I talk about what I'm reading first, and then I talk about what I am knitting. Last time I put timestamps in the down bar about what I was talking about, so that if you want to skip to something specifically, you can go do that, and you don't have to watch the whole thing. And it also kind of gives you a nice breaking point. So I think I'm going to do that again. I'd love to hear your feedback if you like that, if you think that's worth doing. So I think that's about it. I might be kind of rushing through this episode just so that I can get it done and get it out there before Christmas, because I really do want to do that. So with that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and move on to what I've been reading. So what I've been reading this past week, I did finish a book, and that was the audiobook that I had been listening to, and that was The House of Special Purpose by John Boyne. And I have to say that that ended up being a 5-star book for me on Goodreads. And as you may know, 5-star books, not real common for me, so that it got 5 stars was definitely a good read. Let's see where to start on this. So that's told from the perspective of a man who is now in his 80s. His name is Georgy Yakomenev, and he was born in Russia and lived in Russia up until the time he was about 17 or 18, and then he ended up fleeing Russia, and he ultimately ends up living in England with his wife Zoya. They fled Russia together, and the book is really about his whole life story. And I loved the way that John Boyne kind of went back and forth between the present day and the past and kind of somewhere in the middle, and really kind of wove this story together in a really beautiful, beautiful way. So Georgy is born a peasant, the son of a farmer in a small village in Russia called Kashka, and he, really pretty much just assumes that's going to be what his life is. He has several sisters, I think 3 sisters, and he and his dad don't really get along. His dad kind of resents him and thinks he should be something different, even though he's the only son, and it's a tense relationship. But then one day, one of the Grand Dukes was passing through Kashka, and there was an assassination attempt on him from someone who happened to be Georgy's best friend. And Georgy, meaning really to stop his best friend from doing this, jumps in front of the bullet and ends up saving the Grand Duke's life. And so, in gratitude, the Grand Duke invites Georgy to come with him and to serve the Romanov family. So this is set pre-World War I, during the time of the Romanovs, before the Bolshevik Revolution and all of that. And so Tsar Nicholas welcomes him, and Georgy ends up being assigned as one of the personal guards of the Tsarevich, Alexei. And while he's there, he kind of grows to have like this reverence of the Romanov royal family. And then as you kind of go back and forth between that time and kind of him reflecting back on the later portions of his life, his wife Zoya has just died of cancer, and he's kind of stopping and reflecting back. So I think I'm going to tell you right now that there are going to be spoilers ahead. So if you don't want to hear any more about it and you don't want anything ruined, that's totally fine. I'm giving you fair warning. There will be a timestamp where I talk about the next book, so feel free to skip this and jump ahead. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but I do kind of want to talk about what happens, and I don't want to be kind of limited by that. So fair warning, spoilers, skip ahead now. Okay. So what was I getting? Lost my train of thought. So as the book is going on, you don't know who exactly Zoya is. You know that Georgy meets her in Russia, but how exactly he meets her is not necessarily the most clear. And then as it kind of moves on, you start to kind of get this inkling, and he's talking about this, he's got this slight romance happening with one of the princesses, the youngest Romanov princess, Anastasia, and I started to kind of think that maybe Zoya might be Anastasia. And as it develops, it turns out that yes, Zoya actually is Anastasia, and he saves her, and they flee the country together, and they basically are kind of living in hiding because all the other Romanovs were killed, and in the story she witnesses them being executed. The interesting thing is I kind of read a little bit about the Romanov family, and they were all, executed, but when the remains were brought back, it was only the remains of the Tsar, Alexei, and then 3 of the daughters. There was one of the daughters was not brought back. And so I think that's probably where John Boyne kind of draws this from. I loved it. I really, really did. I enjoyed the historical part of it. I enjoyed the relationship part of it between Alexei and Zoya. And it really, I think, humanized the Romanov family. I know a lot of times history looks back on things like that and paints them in a very negative light. And sometimes it's nice to remember they were people too. They were a family and they had, you know, their ups and downs like everyone else. And so it was a great book. I loved the way he went back and forth and really kind of took this story and created a web of mystery around it that really kept you engaged and kept reading. And it was a fantastic book, and I really do recommend it, especially if you like historical fiction and anything in that era. I think you would really enjoy it. I really, really liked it. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it and what you thought. So if you've read it, please let me know. And if you haven't, check it out, because it was really good. I now have kids hanging around outside the door, so this could get even more interesting. So moving on to the book, one of the books that I'm currently reading. I've talked about this for the last few weeks. It's a hefty read, so it's taken me a little bit of time to get through it, even though I love it. I'm actually really kind of savoring it because it's the second time I've read this. And that would be Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This is one of my favorite series. I love it, and like I said, I'm kind of really savoring the read as I'm going through it. So, as a quick synopsis of the plot, the plot in general. The story is about Claire Randall, who is an English woman, and it starts in 1945, and she is vacationing in the Scottish Highlands with her husband Frank, and they are on a second honeymoon. So they got married right before World War II started, and then they got separated by the war. Claire served as a nurse, and Frank served in intelligence. And they were separated through the war, and it's been like 6 years, and so they go away to the Scottish Highlands on this second honeymoon. And while they're there, Claire visits a ring of standing stones called Craignadoon. And it just so happens that she touches one of the stones and ends up transported back in time to 1742, I think it is. And while there, she gets kind of accosted by Frank's ancestor, Black Jack Randall, and runs into a brigand of English dragoons. She ends up rescued by some Scottish Highlanders who are stealing horses and avoiding the English, and they kind of take her and bring her back with her to the land of the Mackenzies in Castle Leoch. And so while she's there, she wants to get back to the Standing Stones because she wants to try to go back to her own time. And she ends up again in trouble with the English dragoons, and because of that ends up forced to marry a Scotsman, and that would be Jamie Fraser. And as time kind of goes on, they discover that this is more than just a marriage of circumstance. They actually really do love each other and care a lot about each other. And so the whole series, it's a series of books, is about kind of their marriage and their relationship. So again, a little bit of spoilers are going to happen now for the rest of it. So if you don't, want to know, you want to read it yourself, and you don't want to know anything that's going to happen, feel free to skip ahead. There is one more book that I'm going to be talking about that I started listening to that I don't think I have any spoilers to give away because I'm not far enough into it. So if you want to skip ahead to that next book, that's totally fine. So coming up, maybe some spoilers. So Claire ends up revealing the truth to Jamie of when she's actually from. And Jamie believes her, or at least he doesn't think that she's lying. And so he takes her back to Craignadoon to let her go back through the stones. And Claire ends up deciding that she's not going to go back to her own time. She's going to stay in the 1700s with Jamie, because their bond and their relationship is that strong. So she stays. They return back to his family lands of Lallybroch, where she gets to meet his sister and her brother-in-law. And I am at the part now where Jamie has been picked up by the Watch and was about to be turned over to the English. And there's a price on Jamie's head, and so he's kind of been avoiding running into the English so that he can basically live. So she and Myrta are now traveling around the Scottish countryside trying to find Jamie because he got away from the Watch. And that's kind of where we're at. I know, obviously I know what happens, but I won't talk about what I haven't read about the second time. But I am really enjoying reading it again. Like I said, I'm kind of taking my time and really savoring it and picking out things in it that I might have missed the first time around. And it's just been a really nice, relaxing, kind of a pleasant story to read before I go to bed at night. So it's another one that I would really recommend to read. Definitely kind of falls into its own genre of weirdness of things that are going on. So that's kind of cool because it's, you know, they go back in time, and then it's historical fiction, and it's all of these different things that are pretty cool. So I think it's got a little bit of something for everybody. So highly recommend Outlander. So check it out. It's good. So the second book that I am currently reading is another audiobook, and this is I like to have one of each going because I like to have the audiobook for when I'm driving in the car or knitting or whatever. It's nice to have a book in my ear, even if I can't physically read one. And this is The Night Circus by Erin, let me check, Morgenstern. And this was one that was recommended to me by a good friend of mine, and it happened to be available on audiobook from the library, and so I thought I'm gonna definitely check this out. And it's really interesting. It's a story of two magicians who are in like this contest, magic contest of some kind, and it's all kind of set in this nighttime circus where all of these kind of wondrous mystical things occur. And so it's called the Night Circus, or the Cirque de Rêve, the Night Circus, and they travel around and kind of mysteriously appear, and they're only open at night. So during the day it's closed, so it's kind of opposite, and the magicians kind of do their battling in the confines of this circus. And so it's really, I don't really have much more to say about it than that, because it's just very mysterious and kind of interesting the way it all is coming together and shaping up. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's different. It's really different, and I'm very intrigued by it, and I'm curious to see how it kind of all shapes up, and what, because this contest that they're doing, this game, is so weird. It's like they make magic, and then the other one has to respond, and they're trying to best each other, but it's not clear who's actually judging all of this, and so it's really kind of it's interesting. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to go on. Like I said, I'm not super far into it. Maybe like a third of the way in. It's read though by Jim Dale, who did the American Harry Potter, and he is such a fantastic reader, so I'm really enjoying that. I like listening to his narrations and the way he kind of gives each character its own life and its own voice, and so that's really, really awesome. So that part's really good too. So it's been a great audiobook, so I'm definitely enjoying The Night Circus a lot. So one of the things that I do every year is I set my Goodreads book goal, and I usually set it for 50 books, which is just under a book a week. It looks like this year I'm gonna fall short because I'm only at 45 books, and there's like a week and a half left in 2016, and there's no way I'm reading 5 books, and then I have way too much other stuff to do. So I'm going to fall short this year, and I'm kind of disappointed about that because I really wanted to meet that goal. But next year, so I will set it again in 2017, probably for 50 books again. maybe 45, since I kind of came up short this year, but a lot of things happened this year that kind of slowed me down, so we'll see. So that's what I've been reading. Thank you to everyone who has given me book recommendations. I really appreciate it, and I really hope that I'll be able to get my hands on some of those and I can read those and give you my feedback on those. I love to have book recommendations. Any comments or thoughts you might have on any of the books that I've been reading, I would love to hear. I'd love to have like a little dialogue about that, so that would be really awesome. So definitely fill me in. That is it for what I've been reading. So I think I might wrap a present or two and move on to the knitting. Shifted a little bit because there's like this glare happening here that was kind of weird, so trying to avoid that. So what have I been knitting? I actually do have a couple finished objects this week, which is really good because they're gift knits and Christmas is coming and I am running out of time, but I feel pretty good about where I'm at because I still have what I've got left is not going to be that big of a deal to finish, so I'm really happy about that. The first thing that I finished this week was the second time I've made this pattern, and that is the red herring hat. You can see it. I made this for myself a couple weeks ago for part of the Swatch Studio Cal, and this is a pattern by Becky Sorensen. You can see here it's got a herringbone stitch pattern and then kind of like this mock twisted rib herringbone that goes up it. It's a really, really fun, easy knit. I like the pattern a lot. I love my red herring hat. And it turned out that my mom also loved it so much that she wanted one exactly like mine. And so I knit her one, and this is for my mom for Christmas. The yarn is Malabriga Rios in the Winter Lake colorway. The one slight alteration I have on this one versus mine is I ended up doing a 1x1 ribbing for the cuff instead of a 2x2, and that was really because of the other project that's my finished object, which was miles and miles of 1x1 rib, and I was like in that mindset, and so when I was ribbing it I was just 1x1, 1x1, so a little bit different brim on it, but it still fits well, and it's stretchy, and I almost think I might like the 1x1 rib better, but this one's for my mom. So this is my first knit. I love this yarn. I think it's really beautiful. It's kind of got like this purple and gray and green going on in there, that just is really subtle color tones that just makes it really beautiful, and it's really soft and very warm. It's been very cold here in Michigan, and so I've been wearing mine a lot, and it definitely keeps my head warm, so it's really awesome. So that's my first finished object. My second one I talked a little bit about last week, and I don't know how I knit this so fast, and that is the Hogwarts house scarf in Slytherin, and I'm showing you, I don't know which side's the right side and which side's the wrong side. So this is for another Christmas knit. It is miles and miles of 1x1 ribbing, just a easy knit, but it got really boring and really tedious, and I'm really glad that it's over, because I'm really glad that it's over. So it's done and ready to go. It just has to be wrapped up. Both of those just have to be wrapped up. I used Knit Picks Swish Worsted for this. It's really squishy. That 1x1 rib makes it extra thick and squishy, so it should be really warm and soft. This is the Jade colorway, and this is the Squirrel Heather, and I think that the colors turned out really good and really true to the movie colors for Slytherin House. But I don't like ribbing very much, and so knitting this much ribbing was not the most fun, and I'm really glad that it's over with and off my needles, because it definitely was a tedious knit. So that's done. I knit it in 10 days, which was like super fast, but I had to. So I got it done. Yay! So those are my 2 FOs that I have, and I'm happy with that. Like I said, I feel like I'm in a good spot with the Christmas knitting. So moving on to WIPs, works in progress. I have 2 that I'm going to show you. I kind of have 3 going on, but one I haven't really worked on at all, so I'm not going to show you because it's not really worth showing you. The first one I showed you last week because I had a hoe, and that was the Monkey Socks by Cookie Eye. So here's my finished sock. The second sock has not gotten a ton of love on it. This is where I was last week when I talked to you, so I've really only done like 1.5 pattern repeats. But this goes pretty fast, and so now that the other stuff is done, I can kind of focus on this and then my one other thing, and I think I'll be able to get this done by Christmas. But I'm not stressing a lot about this because the person who is supposed to be getting these is getting the scarf, so I'm not worrying too much about it. Like I said, these are the Monkey Socks by Cookie A. I'll show you the finished one. They have a really nice textured pattern on it that's pretty simple to follow and isn't too, you can memorize it pretty quickly, and it's good. They are knit cuff down with a twisted rib cuff, a heel flap, and then Kitchener toe. I'm looking forward to knitting a pair of these for myself. The yarn that I'm using is Knit Picks Stroll Hand Painted and the Tiger Eye colorway. I think it's kind of cool because it's almost got like a self-striping thing happening within like that variegatedness, and I like how the yarn is pooling. I think they look really, really cool. So I'm really happy with that. The one thing I will admit that I'm slightly concerned about with these, the person that I'm knitting them for has very, very narrow feet, and so I went down a needle size from what was recommended because I know their feet are so narrow. But I'm worried that they're going to be too small. I hope they're not, because I don't want to rip them out and do them again. But I'm hoping that maybe when I block them, they'll give a little bit and stretch out some, and it'll be okay. But that's my one concern. But I'm trying not to be too concerned about it. So I feel pretty good about that because they do knit up pretty quickly, and I have like 1.5 more repeats before the heel and then the foot, and then I'll be done. And I still have time, but as I said, I'm not stressing too much about getting these guys done, so not gonna worry too much about that. The other work in progress is a new one, and this is also a Christmas knit. I know you're thinking you've done way too many of these, and it's true, I probably have. But this one is really fast and really easy, and so this will definitely be done in time. And that is the Simple Rules cowl, and that's from Stash Lounge. It's a really, really easy, fast knit. I cast this on Saturday, and I have not been working exclusively on it, and I'm already almost done. The pattern was designed, I think, specifically for Universal Yarns Bamboo Bloom, and it's got, I'm going to show you what I've got left of the skein. So it's got, you know, plied stuff, and then it's got this like loose unplied section. And so what you do, it's a free pattern, and what you do is you basically, when it's thin like this, you knit, and then when you get to this kind of unplied loose stuff, you purl. And so that kind of gives you these like ribby things happening as you go around. It's super fast, and it looks really cool. I have one for myself that I knit last year. This is for Abby. We had picked out this yarn like a year ago. So you basically knit until you run out. It just takes one skein. It's inexpensive yarn, or you know, it's a pretty reasonably priced was like less than $10, and so you get this beautiful cowl for less than $10 and not a whole lot of time. So that is my other work in progress. I have one more, which is my own shawl that I'm designing, but I have not had any time to work on it with everything else. So that's still kind of in the same spot, but I'm hoping maybe I'll have that done later, maybe right after Christmas. I'm not sure. So those are my whips. Acquisitions. I do have some of that this week, but I didn't bring them over here with me, so I'll have to do this again. So it was the Malabrigo Rios in the Winter Lake colorway, and I bought a sweater's quantity worth because I am knitting myself a sweater out of this. I fell in love with it when I knit my own hat, and I thought, I want a sweater out of this, and so that is my plan. And I think that is a nice little segue into what I have coming up in January. So I want to, in January, so December, I'm getting everything off my needles, so when January rolls around, I have empty needles. And since my needles will be empty, I am going to be doing a big cast on. And I'm going to, for the first 7 days of January, I'm going to cast on a new project. Now, because I have a tendency to knit only for other people, these are going to be for me. Well, one might be for my daughter, but for the most part, it's going to be for me. And then I've got 7 new projects ready to go in the new year, and I will get going on them. I'm going to make this a knit along and encourage you to do the same thing and start. So I think it'll start the beginning of January. It'll run to the end of January, so it's basically just 7 new project starts in January. It doesn't have to be the first week, just in January let's start 7 new things. And if you are like me and you tend to knit more for other people, I'm going to encourage you to knit for yourself, because we all deserve to enjoy the fruits of our labors. I have very few things, wearing one of them, that are for me, so definitely do that. I think I am running out of time before people start booking me, so I better wrap this up. I want to say I hope everyone has a very happy holiday. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Have a great one. Enjoy the time with your family, with your friends. Be safe, stay warm. My dog is returned. Oh, here he is. Here's Flinty coming to say goodbye. So have a happy holidays, everyone. I may try to podcast one more time after Christmas, but I'm not sure how things are gonna kind of work out. If not, have a happy new year too. Bye, guys.